Actually, that's one of those things where I really wonder. Creativity is probably something with undecidedness and randomness. And in fact, the more recent theories in theoretical physics go a little bit in that direction by saying that the cosmos evolves because new connections are always made. And everything is undecided up to a certain point until it gets entangled, the entanglement idea. And so the whole, only certain parts are ever entangled. And otherwise there's a lot of randomness. As soon as certain entanglements happen, that creates then relationship between different things, that if this has to work this way, then the other thing has to work in another way. So that's the idea of entanglement. I don't consider myself like the greatest artist, so I'm like a hobby painter there's so much accidental coincidences, things that happen when art becomes like, get some kind of local or fame or whatever. But certainly I'm kind of proud of that. And I'm trying to we'll probably also invite some friends of mine who live in the area. Doing watercolors is actually kind of a long-term thing. Was always sort of like a sidekick to my studies. I also studied a little bit of art, actually. In Germany, you can do all this for free, like tuition-free education at the University of Göttingen. I studied physics, mainly theoretical, and mathematics. And as a sidekick, I always had a little bit of art going, like painting punks or painting landscape usually. And but I consider it kind of like brotlose Kunst. Brotlose Kunst means breadless art. So starving artist wasn't exactly my idea. So I thought I wouldn't be making any life with that, My father used to say that I'm the Wanderer zwischen den Welten, meaning the wanderer between the worlds, because I was always absent-minded, forgetful, and daydreaming. And that was also a thing that the elementary school teacher also said that, well, he should probably wait another year because he's just was like looking out of the window. He's out there. And it's true. And but at the same time, it still was fine. I could do okay. So I studied my stuff and got pretty good at physics and math. And so I actually finished that all up, even though it took me forever, because I had to redo everything. Everybody would say, Reiner has to do everything twice. So I wrote my dissertation twice. I did the experiments and then I couldn't find the freaking papers anymore. Yeah, sound and biomechanics then later. So I built at MIT then later an articulatory model of the tongue to how all the muscles move. So nobody had a clue, including myself, how the tongue would be controlled. But the idea was, first you build a biomechanical model of all the musculature, and then you figure out how it can be controlled. And this was all like a pretty nice idea, but later speech was all done completely by learning methods, like nowadays machine learning, and that I also did that then later. The idea is you wanted to understand exactly how speech in humans work. And I had already worked on that in Germany in my dissertation to build articulatory models. So where you have the different things like lips and velum and the tongue move, and then you generate the acoustics based on that. So that can be all done mathematically, so computationally. And so you could be, then that was the old time of speech synthesis. And these things sounded roughly like the voice of Stephen Hawking's. You know, you have probably heard that.
Yeah.
Rather monotone, nobody gave a damn about stress, etc. And so that was presumably the future of speech synthesis. So this was the basic physiology of speech, essentially. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's also connected to hearing, because you have to take into account that we have specializations in the brain that are directly adapted to speech, and they are sort of separately. Yeah, and then of course at some point there is then the organization. What is the organization in the brain and in the brain stem? That's all part of the basic neuroscience of speech. So I painted landscapes, then also people. I think I told you about it. Like we had this group of students who would paint punks and then sell the pictures for a few Deutschmark on the marketplace in Göttingen. And I also occasionally paint like political issues, you know, like it's relaxation, and it's also it just simply feels good. It's also very good for my mood in general. So because I have the feeling that I can project my mood into the landscape, like seeing colors that may not be there or may be there. And it's somehow an interesting discovery about myself. And so it's kind of like when I want to run away from the normal life in which I am, or the trouble of having to figure stuff out where I get stuck, then I could go painting. So much easier, so much better, you know. And so I did stuff like made a bike ride. See, I was also interested in art by Mr. Cézanne at the time. And so I did once a bike ride through the Haute-Provence, to Haute-Provence and in southern part of France, which is called La Provence. And so I thought, I must want to live there. And then I tried to emulate techniques like Cézanne, but realized, it's not really my thing. And so I would call my stuff more like impressionistic realism or something like that. What it also gives me then is some people have certain things that they like the best, and that I can then sort of synchronize that with my own perception, you know, because sometimes, well, it's simply a welcome input, you know, and a motivator as well. So if people like my stuff, of course I'm going to paint more, you know, very simple. Yeah, it's kind of like an overview, I would say, yeah. An overview of the stuff that I've painted like in the last few years. Yeah. I think it's actually, I think I made some progress in the last few years in painting. So I dug out quite a few old paintings that I made, like from Anno Tobak long ago. And yeah, I like some of them still, but I think I could have done much better. I have about, I don't know, like 150 or so paintings that I would be able to, let's say 100 that I would be wanting to show, and then a lot of half-ass stuff. I don't have too high expectations, nor too low expectations. So I don't know. I think I can paint to some extent well enough, given that I didn't study it like a maniac and didn't try all my life. It's still a hobby, and I don't consider myself as the Mr. Fine Art, you know. I'm not going to get cocky about it.
You're not going to take it too seriously.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
You're going to go for the ride and have some fun.
That's right, yeah. And it's also, to some extent, the stuff that I'm more proud of is sort of my scientific work. You know, that's where I put really everything in. Yeah, and Yeah, the artwork is cool.